Okay. So we're going to go ahead and continue with the Bigfoot Society After Dark uh, podcast on Patreon now. So Tammy and Mel, if you have any fun or weird stories, kind of like we're around a campfire and you're telling your funny or well, no weird, whatever stories, just share what you got.
Okay. Okay. Well, not much scares me, but just about everything scares Mel.
Yeah.
So this is a story that it's her scary story, but she wasn't there. So
I was like subconsciously there. So we kind of shared this story, but Mom, she witnessed the whole thing. I was there because it's like,
well, you were there physically, and she was asleep.
mm-hmm.
So
Until I saw the lights in my window.
Yeah. Well, I don't really tell that in the story, so you might bring that up afterwards. Okay. All right. So I kind of wrote out some bullet points here because I'm afraid I won't remember something. And okay. So this takes place on a cold February night in 2015, and it's a true story. Every bit of it's true.
Wow.
There were several inches of snow that had fallen on the ground, and Mel and I had plowed the driveway that day, but there was still a small layer of slush that had frozen into ice. And Mel and I had just recently moved back home from China, and so our home had sat empty for 2 years prior. We were still clearing out the cobwebs and getting acquainted with life back in the States. Mel's boyfriend and my 2 boys had come home for a visit, so our usually empty house now had about 5 people and a dog staying in it. About 2 o'clock in the afternoon on this February day, we noticed several sheriff vehicles and an ambulance at the end of our country road. There was a car that had pulled off into this remote drive that kind of just opened up into a field. The sheriff were there for several hours after the ambulance left, lights flashing and people were walking around. And as it neared dusk, the car was towed away, the sheriff's left, and our road became dark and quiet again. Because the boys were home and my oldest son, Mike, was sleeping on the couch, I allowed our dog, Sadie, to sleep in the living room. Usually I keep her locked up in my bedroom with me because she can get into some mischief. So, but sure enough, around 4 a.m., she started barking.
Oh man.
I ignored her at first because she'd bark at anything that moved. But about 30 seconds in, her tone changed. Her bark grew louder, faster, and she started to growl. I got out of bed and I walked into the office, which was really an open room between my bedroom and the living room. I had a clear view of our glaze-plated French doors. The doors were on the back of our house and faced the woods, but they were our front doors. Outside on the concrete step stood a hooded figure. I froze, thinking Mike must have gone outside to smoke a cigarette or maybe one of the other kids had gone out for some reason, but they would have taken Sadie. The figure moved to the left, stepping off into the shadows of the porch, and I wondered, what was Mike doing? Maybe he was moving out of the breeze. Freezing, I returned to my room and put on a house coat. Sadie continued her frenzied barking, so I hurried back in the living room. I kept the lights out so I could see out the front doors and make out whoever was standing out there. Just as I reached for the handle to let Sadie out, a voice came from behind me. "Mom, why is Sadie barking?" I whipped around, my heart thundered. "I thought you were outside."
Oh man.
I asked Mike if he saw the hooded figure, but he said no, he just woke up. I quickly turned on all the lights as I told Mike what I saw. We called the sheriff, who came out with the deputy that my kids had gone to school with and played soccer with. They searched around the house, the cars, the barn. There were several footprints, but most of them were probably ours. I asked the sheriff if the intruder might have been associated with the car that had been towed earlier. He said no, and explained that the person who had been driving pulled off into the field and had committed suicide.
Oh dear.
There was no evidence of anyone else in the car. A few days later, I learned from the deputy's dad that the sheriff had stopped a man on our road a short time after they'd left our house. The license plate said this man was from West Virginia, and he was traveling the back roads from one small town to another in order to get gas. The police found nothing beyond fishing equipment in his car, and they let him go. No one knows who we saw or where he came from. We don't know if he had anything to do with the suicide or if he had been scouting our house since we'd been out of town out of the country for the previous 2 years. The only thing we know is that this person wasn't seeking help. They didn't come to visit us, and that our dog scared them away. So that's our story.
There's a lot in that story, isn't there? Cool.
So
Wow.
Melissa
Leave it up to
woke up.
speculation.
Yeah.
So Melissa woke up as the sheriff and the deputy were walking around the house searching for any footprints or any evidence left behind by this guy. And so she didn't know what was going on other than
Yeah,
there
I
were
just
people
saw like,
outside her bedroom window.
yeah, I have a fear of people standing outside my window. It's just one of those things that I have nightmares of, and I mean, naturally, right? Naturally. But yeah, when I saw the lights, I thought they were shining in my room, and so freaked me out. Go outside, go into the living room, and I asked, what's going on? And there's someone, surely looking in our house.
I truly thought it was my son and that he just stepped outside to smoke a cigarette or do something like that. And I was going to let Sadie out and just kind of chew him out for not taking her with him. And
oh man, and it's
waking
at
up the
4
house.
a.m. too.
It's at 4 a.m.
Which is
Prime
like
time.
that's the time, 3 to 4 a.m.
So they say.
Oh my god.
So they say.
Well, right,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But
yeah, and I can see that hooded figure just as plain as day standing outside that French door.
So he was like, was he facing you? Was he turned around away, or was he facing you dead on?
I say he, and it could be a she.
Oh, that's
I don't know.
true. Yeah, right.
But
didn't you say his hand was on the door handle?
I might have. I don't remember that detail now for sure, but he was definitely facing the door because you can tell a hood, the front from the back. Yeah.
Yeah, no thanks. That would be an instant buy one of those Ring cams the next day.
Yeah, I don't even know if those existed then.
Yeah, that's true. They not as easy installation, that's for sure.
But it was so strange because we all were there. There are 5 cars in the driveway, but and I have no idea why he chose that night. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. And why someone from West Virginia going from one small town, taking the back roads to go to another small town to get gas? Like, come on.
Oh, yeah, that's no.
We think
that's
maybe
a no for me.
Yeah, we think maybe that person is associated with the incident that happened down the road. Who knows? Or maybe it's just some spirit, looking for who knows.
Yeah, I mean, that's a story where it's like you have to think about it and then you have to think about it again because there's a lot to unpack from it. There's like the person that committed suicide in the car. Then there's also the person on your porch. There's the time when it happened. There's the part with Mel. There's a lot that's playing together. That's a good story. Good job. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank Mel.
But you never saw the figure again.
No.
Yeah, it'll be something that we remember until we die and never have any answers.
Yeah.
Was this Tony is her husband now, was her boyfriend at the time. Was that his first trip to America to stay with us?
Yeah, it was his first time in America.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, to visit me, not ever, but yeah. Yeah, well, we were only in that house for, 4 months?
Yeah, a short while before we moved, yeah.
Yeah, someone else's problem now.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very cool. That's very cool. Thank you for sharing that. I never would have guessed. I enjoy doing this section because it puts people in a different environment, and also I think there's something in human nature about telling stories that is it's really cool. But
yeah,
thank you for taking the time to come on the podcast. I hope that it brings more people to you, and the surprise, the whole coloring book thing. I'll definitely be checking that out for my kid.
Yeah, thank you for having us. And it's a lot of fun. It was nice to meet you.
And we will have to check back in with you in the future when the Thunder. I want to say
Sky
Thunderbirds,
Monsters.
but it's not Sky Monsters. Thank
Sky
you.
Monsters.
I think Thunderbirds all the time because of Fan Meter Visitor, right? But
Yeah.
when Sky Monsters, when is that? Next year, you said?
May.
Okay.
May 2021. Mm-hmm.
So I'll keep an eye on that.
Yep.
Cool.
And there's a lot to that book. So that's probably my favorite. Yeah.
Awesome.
Of the two. Mm-hmm.
All right, Tammy and Mel, thank you again. Good chatting with you.
Yeah, it was good chatting with you too.
Have a great night.
You too.
You too.